Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Prove me wrong. If Jesus isn't God, then why is he eternal and unchanging? Hebrews 13:8 says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But the Old Testament declares that only God is unchanging. Malachi 3:6. Skeptics, can you explain this? The unchanging one. The world is always changing. Empires rise and fall. Generations come and go. People grow old and pass away. But in the midst of all this, one truth remains. God never changes. For I, the Lord, do not change. Malachi chapter 3:6. If only God is unchanging, why does the Bible say the same about Jesus? Before time began, before creation, before the first sunrise, before the foundation of the world, Jesus was. He stood in eternity with the Father. He spoke, and the universe was formed. John chapter 1 declares, In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. If Jesus was there before time, how can he be anything less than eternal? If Jesus isn't God, how can he exist before creation? The constant presence of Christ. Fast forward thousands of years. A raging storm shook the boat as the disciples fought against the waves. Fear filled their hearts as water poured in. Then they saw a figure walking on the water. It was Jesus. Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid. The same Jesus who was with the Father before time was now with his disciples in the storm. And the same Jesus who calmed the storm then is the same Jesus who calms hearts today. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. If Jesus isn't God, how can he be present in every generation, the unchanging Savior? The Pharisees scoffed at him. The crowds were divided about him. The Roman officials dismissed him. But Jesus never changed. He healed the sick. He raised the dead. He forgave sins. And when he stood before Pilate, beaten and bruised, he could have defended himself. Instead, he remained the same. Silent, unwavering, resolute. The same Jesus who came to save was the same Jesus who went to the cross. If Jesus isn't God, why is he unchanging when only God is? The risen and exalted Christ. 3 days after the crucifixion, everything changed. The tomb was empty. The stone was rolled away. Jesus was alive. But something else happened. His disciples, who once feared for their lives, stood boldly proclaiming his name. Why? Because they had seen him alive. Because they realized he was not just a man. He is the eternal, unchanging Son of God, the same Jesus who was in the beginning, the same Jesus who walked on water, the same Jesus who conquered the grave, is the same Jesus who rules forever. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Hebrews 13:8. If Jesus isn't God, how can he be eternally the same? The challenge to skeptics. Here's the challenge. If Jesus isn't God, explain this. The Old Testament says, I, the Lord, do not change. Malachi 3:6. Yet the New Testament says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Hebrews 13:8. If only God is unchanging, why does the Bible say the same about Jesus? If Jesus isn't God, why does he remain the same for all eternity? No prophet ever made this claim. No angel ever took this title. No religious leader ever dared to say this. So if Jesus isn't God, prove me wrong. The unshakable truth. Jesus wasn't just a teacher. He is the same yesterday. He is the same today. He is the same forever, because he is God, and his promise still stands today. I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Matthew 28:20. Closing and call to action. The question is, do you believe it? If you believe Jesus is God, type "Jesus is eternal and unchanging" in the comments. If you don't, explain this passage. For more powerful Bible truths, like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Will you trust him today?